My mill asked about my parents' inheritance. I said, none. Then I took action that shocked everyone. Welcome back with a new real shock story. Before we start, comment and tell me which city you're watching from. At the end, don't forget to subscribe and rate it from 0 to 10. Let's enjoy the story, everyone.
I still remember that night so clearly, like it's etched into my mind. It wasn't anything unusual at first, just another evening in my little world. My life wasn't perfect, but I thought it was safe. I had work, I had my husband, my home, my routine. That's what I told myself. But deep down, I guess I knew something was about to change. I had just finished cooking dinner. The smell of garlic and roasted chicken filled our small kitchen. My husband was out, as usual, working late. I was tired, but content. I was thinking about curling up with a book later, maybe scrolling a bit on my phone. That night, the house felt quiet, peaceful, normal, until she came in. My mother-in-law didn't knock. She just stepped inside, her eyes fixed on me. There was something in her gaze that made me uneasy. Not anger, exactly, but something heavier, something I couldn't place. I looked up from chopping vegetables, and she just stood there quietly. Then she walked over and sat at the table without saying a word. We ate in silence for a while. I tried to ignore it, thinking maybe she was tired or lost in her own thoughts. But then, out of nowhere, she asked me a question. Not casual, not normal. She asked about my inheritance. She asked if I'd gotten anything from my parents. Just like that. No lead-up, no warning. I froze. I didn't even know how to respond at first. My hands stopped moving. My heart started racing. I looked at her, trying to understand why she would even ask something like that. It was personal, and it felt invasive. None, I said finally. My voice was low but steady. I thought it would end there, but at DID in single quotes, there was something in her silence after that answer. A kind of stillness that made the air in the room feel heavier. She just stared at me for a long moment before getting up and leaving without another word. No explanation, no goodbye, just gone. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the moment in my mind. Why would she ask that? And why did it feel like more than just curiosity? I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, my thoughts tangled. Something about her question didn't sit right with me. I felt like I was being tested in a way I didn't understand yet. The days after that night were different. Everything felt sharper, heavier. I started noticing the little things: her tone when she spoke to me, the way she'd glance at me when she thought I wasn't looking, the way she'd show up unexpectedly, always quiet, always watching. I told myself I was imagining things, but deep inside, I knew I wasn't. It was like something had shifted. Our home, which used to feel safe, started to feel tense, like walking on eggshells. I found myself second-guessing every word, every action, wondering if it would somehow lead back to that question she asked. Then came the day that confirmed my fears. I was home alone, doing laundry, when I heard her footsteps outside my room. She walked in without knocking again. There was no warmth in her face, no greeting, just that same look. She sat down across from me and stared in silence. Then she spoke again, softer this time, almost quietly. Did you get anything from your parents? My stomach twisted. This wasn't just a random question anymore. It was deliberate. A test. I shook my head again, but my voice felt smaller this time. She didn't react right away, just looked at me for what felt like forever. Then she left again, silently, as if she was letting something settle in her mind before acting. After that, I began noticing things I'd missed before. She would bring up strange comments when my husband wasn't around, remarks that seemed innocent but carried a hidden edge. She'd speak to others quietly when she thought I couldn't hear. It felt like she was weaving a story without me in the room. I started feeling watched. Every step I took at home felt calculated. Every conversation felt like it could be scrutinized later. It was exhausting. I tried talking to my husband, but he brushed it off, saying I was over. That only made me feel more alone in it all. One night I came home later than usual after work. The door to our house was slightly open. My heart skipped a beat. I knew I hadn't left it that way. My mind raced. I stepped inside quietly, my senses sharp. The living room was dark and still, but then I noticed papers scattered across the floor. My things moved. Someone had been here. Fear tightened its grip on me. I stood frozen, listening for sounds. Nothing, just silence. But I knew, without doubt, that something had shifted. I couldn't ignore it anymore. This wasn't just about a question anymore. It was something bigger, something dangerous. That night, I lay awake again. The house was silent, but my mind was loud. I thought about that question, her silence, the strange visits, the whispers, everything pointed to the same truth. Something was happening that I couldn't yet understand, and whatever it was going to change my life forever. I didn't know how deep it would go, I didn't know how much I would have to risk, but I knew I had to be ready for whatever came next, because the truth was coming. The next morning, I woke up still unsettled, my head was pounding from lack of sleep, but there was something heavier pressing on me, a feeling I couldn't shake. I moved through the house quietly, careful not to wake anyone. Everything looked normal, but I knew it wasn't. My world felt cracked. I went to work that day feeling distracted. My coworkers chatted around me, but I heard none of it. My thoughts were stuck on that night, on her words, on her silence. Even in the bright office, it felt dark inside my mind. I kept replaying her question over and over. Did you get anything from your parents? Why did she keep asking? And why did it matter so much to her? That afternoon, I called my mother. I didn't tell her why I was calling at first. I asked her about random things, how she was, how dad was doing. But deep down, I knew why I'd made the call. I needed to check something. My voice felt strained, almost shaky. She answered warmly at first, her voice full of comfort. But when I finally asked, Mom, did you leave me anything? There was silence. My breath caught. Then she laughed softly, the kind of laugh that doesn't feel real. Alec, we didn't leave anything, she said. Her voice was firm, yet distant, like she was trying not to feel it. That silence afterward, it hit me hard. I thanked her and hung up. But her tone stayed with me. Something inside me stirred. I knew I wasn't imagining the tension with my mother-in-law anymore. This wasn't coincidence, it was deliberate. When I got home that night, the air in our house was heavy again. My husband was still out working late, and my mother-in-law was already there, sitting in the living room like she belonged. I froze when I saw her. She looked up at me, a faint, unreadable smile on her lips. No words, just that look. For hours, I went about my evening quietly, cooking, cleaning, trying to pretend nothing was wrong. But every movement felt watched, every sound felt magnified. Then she spoke, her voice soft, almost like a whisper. You know, people talk. I froze in my tracks. My heart was pounding so hard I thought she could hear it. What do you mean? I asked quietly. She didn't answer. She just stared at me for a moment, and then left again without explanation. I was left standing there, in silence, with that question burning in my chest. What did she mean by that? The days that followed were worse. Every time I turned around, there she was watching. Not loudly, not with confrontation, but quietly. She would pass by with a slow glance, or stand in doorways silently. It was as if she was testing me, seeing how I'd react. And with every passing moment, I felt smaller, more fragile. One evening, my husband finally noticed something was wrong. I told him about the question, the visits, the way she looked at me. But instead of the reassurance I hoped for, he just shook his head. Alec, you're overthinking this, he said softly. But his words felt hollow, even to me. And I could tell deep down I wasn't overthinking it. The tension inside our home grew worse. I started avoiding being alone, always keeping an ear out for footsteps. Always aware of her presence. Every shadow in the hallway felt heavier. Every silence became loud. Then, one night, I found something that changed everything. I came home later than usual again. I stepped in quietly, the floor creaking under my feet. The house felt too quiet. To still, I grabbed my phone, keeping my flashlight on, and slowly moved toward the living room. There, scattered across the floor, were papers, my personal things, everything out of place. My heart skipped a beat. My hands trembled. Someone had been here while I was gone. My mind raced. Could it be her? I couldn't be sure. But something told me this wasn't random. This was deliberate. I backed away slowly, my chest tightening. My mind was spinning. I locked the door that night and barely slept. The fear was worse, now real, and heavy. This wasn't just a question anymore. This was an intrusion, a warning, and I knew it. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, feeling a storm inside me. That question she kept asking was a thread, pulling me into something I didn't understand yet. I couldn't stop thinking about what it could mean. Was it about money, control, or something deeper, something darker? That night, I made a decision. I wouldn't just let this happen. I had to know the truth. I had to face it, even if it terrified me. I didn't know what was waiting for me, but I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore, because something inside me whispered, this wasn't the end. This was only the beginning. The next morning, I woke up with my heart still pounding. Sleep had been impossible. Every noise I heard during the night had felt amplified: the creak of the floor, the hum of the refrigerator. Even the wind brushing against the windows sounded like footsteps in my mind. I told myself it was just stress, just my imagination, but deep down, I knew it. Single quotes T. By mid-morning, I was already on edge. Every glance toward the door made me flinch. Every knock on the wall felt louder than it should. Even at work, I kept checking my phone, expecting to see messages I didn't want to receive. My mind was spiraling, filled with a storm of questions I couldn't answer. Why was she doing this? Why was she asking those questions about my parents? And what was she trying to find? That night, I stayed later at work than usual. I needed time to think without her in the same house. But when I got home, the tension was thicker than ever. My husband was already there, sitting quietly in the living room, staring at his phone. He looked up when I entered, but his expression was blank-like. He had something on his mind but couldn't say it. I noticed her again. My mother-in-law was there too, sitting in the corner with her arms folded, eyes fixed somewhere beyond me. She didn't greet me, didn't move, just watched, and that silence, it was heavier than any word. I tried to talk to my husband quietly, pulling him aside. "Something's going on," I whispered. "You've got to see it. She's watching me like she's testing me." But he brushed it off again. "Alec, relax. You're imagining it. You're tired. You need rest." His voice was soft but firm, and I wanted to believe him, but I couldn't. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. I kept tossing and turning, replaying everything: the question, the glances, the scattered papers. I kept hearing that phrase echoing in my mind: people talk. What did she mean by that? Around midnight, I heard it, a faint sound, a quiet, deliberate step in the hallway. My breath stopped. My body froze. I lay still, straining to hear more. The sound came again, slower this time. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. I grabbed my phone, turning on the flashlight. I slipped out of bed, moving quietly toward the door. Every step felt heavier, as if something unseen was pulling me in deeper. I reached the living room. Mind froze. The room was dark, but there she was, my mother-in-law, standing at the far side of the room, staring right at me. Her eyes weren't just looking at me, they were piercing, like she could see into my soul. For a moment, neither of us moved. I felt a cold, sharp knot in my chest. Then she spoke, her voice low and almost inaudible, but it shook me to the core. "You're closer than you think." Before I could ask what she meant, she turned and walked away. I was left standing there, my heart racing, my mind screaming. That phrase lingered in my ears like a warning, something I couldn't ignore. The next days became unbearable. Every moment at home felt like walking through a storm. I found myself watching her, noticing details I had missed before: the way she touched certain objects, the way she lingered in certain rooms, the way her eyes followed me without explanation. I started keeping a journal. Every time she said something, every odd glance, every question, it went in there. I had to document it. I couldn't trust my memory anymore. Something was happening, and I needed proof before I could face it. One afternoon, I found another clue. I came home to discover my phone missing from my bag. I had left it on the couch before work. It should have been there. My chest tightened. My first thought wasn't just that it was lost, it was that she had taken it. My mind raced with suspicion. I searched the entire house quietly, moving like someone on the edge of breaking. I checked her room, the living room, even the kitchen drawers. Nothing. My phone was gone, and with it, a part of my sense of safety. That night, I stayed up writing everything down: the question she asked, her watching me, the missing phone. It felt like assembling pieces of a puzzle I couldn't yet see. By dawn, I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. This wasn't just a strange coincidence. This was deliberate. And if she wanted something from my past, from my parents, it meant I was right. This was bigger than just a question. I had to find out the truth, and I was ready to confront it, no matter what it took. That night, I couldn't sleep again. My mind was racing faster than my heart could handle. Every sound in the house felt magnified: each creak of the floorboards, every sigh, every whisper of the wind outside. I kept telling myself I was overthinking, that maybe I was imagining things, but deep inside, I knew the truth. Something was happening, something I couldn't ignore. By midnight, I was wide awake, sitting on the edge of my bed, staring at the dark. I heard footsteps again, not the casual shuffle of someone walking. They were slow, deliberate, and they were coming closer. My breath caught in my throat. My phone wasn't in my bag, but I wasn't about to wait for it. I grabbed a flashlight from my drawer and crept quietly toward the living room. My heart was pounding so loud, I was certain she could hear it, and then I saw her standing in the doorway of my room. Her face was unreadable, her eyes fixed on me. I wanted to ask why she was here, why she was doing this, but no words came out. My throat felt too tight. She stepped forward slowly. "Alec," she whispered, her voice soft but full of something I couldn't place: fair anger, warning. "You've been digging where you shouldn't." A surge of adrenaline hit me. "What do you mean?" I demanded, my voice trembling, more from fear than anger. She didn't answer. Instead, she moved past me and into my bedroom. I followed, my flashlight cutting through the darkness. That's when I saw my phone lying on the bed, and beside it, a small envelope. I picked it up with shaking hands. Inside were photographs, pictures of me as a child, pictures of my parents, pictures I had never seen before. They were taken without my knowledge. There was also a folded note, written in her handwriting. I unfolded it slowly, my hands quivering. It said, "Some truths are dangerous, Alec. You're closer than you think. If you open this door, you can't go back." My chest tightened, my breath quickened. Every muscle in my body screamed to stop, to put the envelope down, to walk away. But something inside me burned an unshakable need to know. I heard her behind me again. "Don't do this tonight," she said softly, almost pleading, but I could hear the steel in her voice. She wasn't asking me to stay safe, she was warning me. I turned to her. "Why? What are you hiding?" She looked at me for a long moment, eyes glistening. Then she simply shook her head and walked away, disappearing into the darkness. I was left standing there, the envelope clutched in my hand, my breath ragged. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought it might burst. I knew one thing for certain: once I opened those photographs and that note, my life would change forever. I sat back on the bed, staring at them for what felt like hours. My mind was a storm of fear, anger, and curiosity. I wanted to throw the envelope away. I wanted to destroy it before I could ever know. But something deep inside me whispered, "You have to know." So I opened it, and in that moment, everything changed. Because what I read and saw in those photographs was not just about me or my inheritance. It was about something much bigger, something I could never ignore. The truth hit me harder than anything I had ever faced. And in that instant, I realized I was no longer just a part of this story. I was at the center of it. And there was no turning back. When I closed the envelope, my hands were trembling so badly I could barely hold it. My mind was spinning. Every thought, every moment before this felt like a blur now. Like a dream I was being pulled out of without warning. The photographs, the note, it was all a puzzle. A truth I wasn't ready for but could no longer ignore. I sat on my bed for what felt like hours, staring at the pieces of paper in my lap. Outside, the house was silent, but inside me, it was chaos. My chest ached, not just from fear but from the weight of something much bigger, something I couldn't explain yet. When morning came, I still had the envelope. I kept it hidden, but I knew I had to decide what to do. I could confront her, demand answers, or I could leave, walk away, and never look back. But leaving meant ignoring something dangerous. Confronting her meant risking everything by noon. I chose the latter. I found her in the kitchen. She looked up, her eyes tired but unyielding. I held the envelope in my hands. "We need to talk," I said softly. She didn't answer at first. She just stared at me, a long silence between us, heavy enough to crush me. Then she nodded slowly. "I've been protecting you," she said. Her voice was low, almost broken. "There are things about your past, about your parents, that you were never meant to know. But now, it's too late to stop you." Her words hit me like a blow. Protecting me. Then why the watching? Why the questions? I looked into her eyes, searching for answers, but there was nothing, only a deep sadness. I didn't speak. I just walked out of the house. I needed air, clarity. Outside, the world felt different, like I was seeing it for the first time. The streets looked sharper, the air heavier, and my life was no longer the same. That day, I learned something I'll never forget. Some truths aren't just about the past, they define your future. What she had tried to protect me from wasn't just a family secret. It was a story of injustice, of greed, of power, and it was my story to now. I still don't have all the answers, but I know one thing: this isn't just about me. It's about the countless voices silenced before they could speak. It's about the truths hidden in shadows, waiting for someone brave enough to uncover them. So, I ask you, what would you do if the truth came knocking at your door? Would you open it? Or would you turn away, too afraid to face what lies inside? Because once it's out, there's no turning back. And for me, Alec Rose, turning back is no longer an option.